When The Lost World arrived in 1960, audiences expected dinosaurs brought to life through Ray Harryhausen's legendary stop-motion magic. What they got was painted iguanas, recycled volcano footage, and a turkey vulture with fake wings glued on. From Fox's elaborate publicity hoax claiming they housed real dinosaurs, to Claude Rains filming entire scenes from a chair because of back pain, The Lost World became infamous for choosing shortcuts over spectacle. These are 15 weird facts about The Lost World, where studio cost-cutting met prehistoric adventure. Before we journey to the Lost Plateau, make sure you're subscribed and hit the hype button so others can discover these classic movie secrets. And trust me, the bizarre production stories ahead are worth exploring. Now let's venture into the prehistoric past together. Number 1. The studio tried to fool audiences by faking live dinosaurs. Fox's marketing department pulled off an audacious publicity stunt that bordered on fraud. They circulated promotional photographs showing supposed real dinosaurs housed in a studio warehouse, complete with dramatic lighting and mysterious shadows. The images suggested Fox had somehow acquired actual prehistoric creatures for filming. It was complete nonsense. Those photos showed rubber mock-ups carefully posed and lit to look convincing in still photographs. The deception worked temporarily, building excitement among audiences who thought they'd witnessed something genuinely revolutionary. When the truth emerged after release, the backlash was swift. Critics called it cynical manipulation, audiences felt betrayed, and the incident became a cautionary tale about over-promising and under-delivering. Number 2. Willis O'Brien spent years preparing stop-motion that never got used. The legendary animator behind King Kong spent years during the late 1950s creating detailed preparation work for a big-budget Lost World remake. O'Brien produced hundreds of pre-production drawings and paintings designing dinosaurs he planned to bring to life through his signature stop-motion animation. He successfully convinced producer Irwin Allen and Fox executives to greenlight the project, believing his vision would finally reach the screen. Then the studio betrayed him completely. Fox refused to let O'Brien actually create the special effects he'd prepared for, substituting painted reptiles instead of his carefully planned animation. Allen apparently only wanted O'Brien's prestigious name associated with the remake as a way to secure larger funding and generate publicity. The studio buried him in the credits, listing him forth as an effects technician, a humiliating demotion for the man who'd revolutionized creature effects decades earlier. O'Brien's detailed dinosaur artwork representing years of creative development was simply discarded. The film used none of his designs, none of his techniques, none of his artistry. It's one of Hollywood's cruelest bait and switches, exploiting a legend's reputation while denying him the opportunity to practice his craft. Number 3. The iguana fights were shot in slow motion to look huge. The production team knew their painted reptiles wouldn't convince anyone without technical manipulation. Their solution was to slow down the camera frame rate during filming. When played back at normal speed, the lizards appeared to move with ponderous weight, their actions seeming massive and dinosaur-like rather than quick and lizard-like. The technique worked better in theory than practice. Careful observers could still tell something wasn't quite right, that the physics didn't match the implied scale. But in a darkened theater without the ability to rewatch or scrutinize, it created just enough illusion to get by. Number 4. Some animals were filmed through split-screen terrariums. Combining miniature sets with live animals required creative optical work. The effects team built tiny jungle environments inside glass boxes, placed lizards inside these terrariums, and filmed them interacting with the miniature foliage. Then they used optical printing techniques to combine that footage with separately filmed actors. When executed well, the compositing created moments where humans and reptiles appeared to share the same space. When executed poorly, the lighting didn't match and the depth didn't work, creating obvious visual contradictions that broke the illusion immediately. Number 5. Ray Harryhausen was embarrassed by the movie. The legendary animator went on record with harsh criticism of this approach to dinosaur effects. He publicly stated he hated that Hollywood kept using real animals instead of stop motion, calling The Lost World's effects cheap shortcuts that disrespected both the craft and the animals involved. His frustration was understandable. He'd spent years perfecting techniques that could create believable prehistoric creatures with personality and character. Watching studios take the easy route with painted lizards must have felt like watching someone microwave a TV dinner and call it gourmet cooking. Harryhausen's disdain became industry gossip, a public rebuke that carried weight given his reputation. Number 6. Fox reused an entire volcano eruption from another movie. When the script called for a massive volcanic explosion, the production team faced an expensive problem. Creating that kind of large-scale destruction required significant effects work and budget. Their solution was brazen recycling. They lifted the volcano footage directly from Journey to the Center of the Earth, released just 1 year earlier in 1959. Same studio, same effects footage, completely different movie. The cost savings were substantial, and they gambled that audiences wouldn't notice or remember specific shots from another film. For the most part, they were correct. Most viewers had no idea they were watching recycled destruction. Number 7. The pterodactyl attack used a turkey vulture. Creating a convincing flying reptile presented unique challenges the production team solved with questionable methods. They took a real turkey vulture, glued fake wings and a head crest onto the bird, then literally threw it at actors during attack scenes. The poor bird had no idea what was happening and simply tried to escape, creating chaotic footage that could be edited into something resembling an aerial assault. Animal welfare standards were vastly different in 1960, and this kind of treatment wouldn't be permitted today. The results were somewhat effective on screen but deeply troubling from an ethical standpoint. We're halfway through this prehistoric expedition, but the strangest production secrets are still ahead. From censored dinosaur battles to hot air balloon tricks filmed on apple crates. If you're enjoying these behind-the-scenes stories from classic adventure cinema, hit that like button and drop a comment about which fact surprised you most. Your engagement helps us uncover more forgotten movie magic. Alright, let's return to the Lost Plateau. Number 8. Studios banned the film's original dinosaur scenes. Early test footage contained more graphic sequences of lizards fighting each other, battles that were violent enough to draw censor objections. The problem wasn't fictional violence but real animal treatment. Censors recognized these were actual creatures being forced to fight for camera entertainment, and they shut down the more extreme content. The production had to scale back their most ambitious combat sequences, softening the dinosaur confrontations to meet approval standards. Those banned scenes have never surfaced publicly, likely destroyed or locked away in archives. Number 9. The famous plateau was mostly a matte painting. Those sweeping shots of the vast prehistoric plateau were almost entirely painted illusions. Only a small physical ledge existed for actors to stand on during filming. Everything else, the distant cliffs, the expansive jungle valleys, the towering rock formations came from L.B. Abbott's matte painting team. They created massive background paintings that were composited with the live-action footage, expanding the limited physical set into something that felt genuinely epic. The technique was industry standard at the time, but the scale of deception was impressive. What looked like location filming on some massive natural formation was actually a tiny platform in front of painted canvas. Number 10. The Cannibal Village reused huts from South Pacific. Budget pressures led to creative asset management across Fox's various productions. When The Lost World needed indigenous village sets, someone raided the studio's storage facilities and pulled out leftover structures from South Pacific. The musical released 2 years earlier. They didn't even bother repainting some of the huts, gambling that the different context and lighting would disguise their origins. For viewers who'd recently seen South Pacific, the recognition must have been jarring, watching the same physical structures appear in wildly different genres. Number 11. The dinosaur roar came from a lion slowed down. Creating monstrous vocalizations for oversized reptiles required audio manipulation that predated digital effects. Sound engineers recorded lion roars, then dramatically dropped the pitch to create deeper, more massive-sounding calls. The technique worked reasonably well, giving the painted iguanas vocal presence that their visual appearance struggled to convey. It's a reminder that good sound design can elevate mediocre visuals, creating atmosphere and menace that the images alone couldn't achieve. The process was more complex than simply slowing down a tape recorder. Engineers had to experiment with different playback speeds to find the sweet spot where the roar maintained its organic quality while gaining that earth-shaking rumble audiences expected from giant creatures. Too slow and it sounded artificial, like a broken record player. Not slow enough, and it was obviously just a big cat. They also layered multiple recordings together, combining different lion vocalizations at various pitches to create something that felt unique and otherworldly. The final result fooled most audiences completely, proving that what you hear matters just as much as what you see, and sometimes clever audio can convince viewers they're watching something far more impressive than what's actually on screen. Number 12. Claude Rains filmed most scenes seated because of health issues. The distinguished actor brought gravitas to Professor Challenger, but severe back problems limited his physical capabilities during production. Rather than replace him, the screenwriters revised scenes to keep Challenger mostly stationary. He delivers crucial dialogue from chairs, rocks, and makeshift seats throughout the film. The constraint actually worked for the character, making the professor seem more cerebral and authoritative, directing the expedition through intellect rather than physical prowess. What started as a medical accommodation became a character choice that enhanced the performance. Rains was reportedly frustrated by his physical limitations. A proud actor accustomed to commanding scenes through movement and presence now reduced to sitting while others explored around him. The production adapted by bringing the action to him rather than sending him to the action, staging scenes so other characters would gather around Challenger for consultation and instruction. It created an interesting dynamic where the professor became the expedition's stationary brain, the thinker who orchestrated everything from his strategic position while younger, healthier characters did the physical work. Watch closely and you'll notice how rarely Challenger actually walks any significant distance, how carefully the blocking ensures he's always near something he can lean against or sit upon. The crew reportedly kept extra cushions and back supports just off camera, ready to provide relief between takes for an actor determined to deliver a memorable performance despite genuine pain. Number 13. Production was halted by the 1960 Screen Actors Guild strike. The film's production was interrupted by the Screen Actors Guild strike that ran from March 7 to April 18, 1960. The strike was part of a larger labor dispute where both SAG and the Writers Guild of America walked out simultaneously for the first time, with actors demanding better residual payments for films shown on television. The work stoppage halted production on 8 major feature films including Elizabeth Taylor's Butterfield 8 and Marilyn Monroe's Let's Make Love. After more than 5 weeks, production resumed when the actors voted overwhelmingly to accept a new deal. The strike caused significant delays for The Lost World and other Fox productions, adding to the film's already troubled behind-the-scenes story. Future U.S. President Ronald Reagan, then serving as SAG president, led the negotiations that ended the strike. The timing couldn't have been worse for The Lost World. The production was already struggling with budget constraints and the decision to use painted lizards instead of Willis O'Brien's stop-motion work. Now they faced weeks of forced shutdown with sets sitting idle, crew members reassigned to other projects, and mounting costs with nothing to show for it. When filming finally resumed, the pressure to make up for lost time likely contributed to even more corner-cutting decisions. The strike added tens of thousands of dollars to the film's budget through delays alone, money that could have been spent on better special effects or more ambitious sequences. Instead, it became another expense in a production already notorious for choosing the cheapest possible solution to every creative challenge. Number 14. The dinosaur eggs were real ostrich eggs painted over. Rather than sculpt artificial prehistoric eggs, the props department took the practical route. They purchased dozens of ostrich eggs from a local farm, painted them to look ancient and mysterious, then shellacked the surfaces for durability and visual interest. The eggs provided authentic organic shapes and textures that sculpted props would struggle to match. Sometimes the easiest solution is the best one, using readily available materials that already possess the qualities you're trying to fake. The ostrich eggs had natural weight and substance that made them feel genuine when actors handled them on camera, subtle authenticity that's impossible to replicate with hollow plaster or papier-mâché. The painting process became surprisingly intricate, with artists adding layers of weathering, cracks, and age patterns to suggest these eggs had been sitting in a prehistoric nest for eons. Some were deliberately damaged to show partial hatching, revealing interior textures that looked disturbingly organic. The farm that supplied the eggs apparently had questions about why a movie studio needed such massive quantities, but the money was good and they didn't ask too many follow-up questions about what Hollywood planned to do with several dozen ostrich eggs. Number 15. The movie ends with a cliffhanger because a sequel was planned but never made. That final dramatic shot of the escaped brontosaurus rampaging through London wasn't meant to be an ending. It was deliberate sequel bait, setting up a follow-up adventure that would explore prehistoric creatures loose in modern civilization. Fox had big plans for an entire Lost World franchise. Then the box office numbers arrived. The film underperformed, failing to generate the returns necessary to justify continued investment. The sequel was quietly canceled, leaving that cliffhanger dangling permanently. Modern viewers watching the ending might assume it's just a dramatic conclusion, never realizing they're seeing an abandoned setup for stories that would never be told. The studio had already begun preliminary development on the sequel, with early script treatments exploring the chaos of a dinosaur terrorizing London streets and the military response to prehistoric invasion. Concept art existed showing the brontosaurus destroying famous landmarks, trampling through Piccadilly Circus and creating havoc at the Thames. The planned title was reportedly The Lost World Returns or The Beast of London, depending on which producer you asked. When the cancellation came down, all that developmental work was filed away and forgotten, joining countless other abandoned sequels in Hollywood's graveyard of unrealized projects. It's a reminder that every cliffhanger carries risk, that ending your story on a promise of more only works if audiences show up in sufficient numbers to make that promise worth keeping. The Lost World wasn't the dinosaur spectacle audiences expected. It was a production that chose shortcuts over artistry, recycled assets over original work, and live animals over animation excellence. Ray Harryhausen's embarrassment was justified, but the film remains a fascinating case study in cost-cutting filmmaking and the compromises studios made when spectacle exceeded budget. If you enjoyed exploring these production secrets, make sure to subscribe, because the next journey through classic cinema's strangest corners is coming soon.